Welcome back to Fox Explainer. Today I'm going to show you an action movie from 2022 called Uncharted. Spoilers ahead. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Watch out and take care. When he opens his eyes, treasure hunter Nate is hanging outside from a line of cargo boxes that are also hanging from an open plane. He fights his way up and gets back into the plane, but as soon as he gets inside, a red car pushes him back out. As he falls to his death, a hand grabs him just in time, which reminds Nate of a small adventure he had when he was a boy. 15 years ago, Nate and his older brother Sam broke into a museum in Boston. Nate was about to fall out the window if Sam hadn't caught him. The orphan brothers are looking for a map made after the Magellan expedition so they can find an old treasure. Unfortunately, as soon as Sam tries to pick the lock, he sets off the alarm and the police catch them. The boys are taken back to the orphanage, but Sam has to go to prison because this is his third strike. Nate gets to stay. They give the brothers a moment alone to say goodbye, so Sam uses this time to get away. Before he leaves, though, he gives Nate his favorite ring so it will always be with him and promises to come back for him in the future. After Sam leaves, Nate finds an empty piece of paper and his brother's lighter, which he uses to find a hidden message from Sam with words of love. Back in the present, Nate now works as a bartender in New York. He also steals from wealthy people by getting close to them with random excuses, like helping a girl light her cigarette so he can take her bracelet. Nate still carries his brother's lighter with him, even though it doesn't work very well these days. One night, as Nate was closing the bar, a man named Sully came up to him and complimented him on how good he was at pickpocketing. He then invited Nate to join him on an upcoming important job. Nate doesn't want to start committing crimes with a stranger, so he kicks him out, only to find that Sully took the bracelet from his pocket and left his card instead. Nate wants the bracelet back, so he goes to the address on the card and sneaks into the apartment by stealing the keys from the doorman. Sully is already waiting for him, and to Nate's surprise, he has the original Magellan's map. Nate talks about the stories that say the original trip was planned to find gold, and Sully confirms that it's true. The trip was paid for by the Moncada family, and the current heirs, Armando and his son Santiago, are still looking for the treasure. Sully tells Nate that he was a friend of Sam's and even shows him a picture of Sam as an adult to help him agree to come along. It seems that Sam disappeared after they found Magellan's journal, and Sully hasn't even heard from him since. Nate agrees that it sounds like Sam because he hasn't heard from him either. Sully suggests that looking for the gold could also help Nate find Sam. Nate still says no, saying that the brother he knew no longer exists. But when he gets back to his apartment, he opens a box with important memories and finds postcards from Sam. Nate lied to Sully when he said his brother never talked to him again. He also finds the ring, and after putting it back on, he decides he does want to do this after all. Sully and Nate get together to talk about their next move. There's an auction coming up, and one of the antiques they are selling is a cross that opens the room where the gold is hidden. The legend says that there are two keys, but Sully already has the other one, so they need to steal this one to get started. After telling Sully to split the gold 50-50, Nate uses his free time to look at the building where the auction will be held and come up with a plan. The night of the auction, Sully and Nate see a valuable red car and find out that Santiago is there, too. Santiago thinks the gold is his birthright, so he'll be tough competition for the cross. He isn't alone, though. He has hired mercenary leader Joe, who used to be Sully's partner and teases him when she sees him. As the auction is about to start, Sully pretends to be one of the buyers while Nate sets up the plan. Joe notices that he is acting strangely, so she tells her men to watch him. Nate gets into the electrical room by sticking gum on the digital lock. The plan is to turn off the power so Sully can steal the cross in the dark. Because Nate is taking too long, Sully has no choice but to start bidding against Santiago, even though he doesn't have the money. Unfortunately, Joe's men find Nate and a fight begins. After a few blows, Nate runs out of the room and decides to distract his opponent by jumping on the ceiling lamps in the hall. Now that everyone is scared and the cross is being taken away, Sully turns his jacket around and pretends to be one of the workers. As Nate is found and chased by security, Sully puts his hands on the cross and takes it away, saying he's in charge of taking it to the vault. Joe sees this and goes after him. She corners him and threatens him with her knife, but security comes along and tries to arrest her for attacking an auction worker. Sully gets to run away with the cross while Joe fights the guards. Nate is waiting for Sully when he gets back to his car, and the two of them decide to go to Spain together. Nate gets to look at the captain's journal on the plane. It confirms the story that Magellan found a lot of gold in the Philippines, hid it in Barcelona, and then told the Moncada family that he found nothing. They will be able to find the gold by following the clues in the journal, but so far the main clue is just a tree. Once they get to Barcelona, they meet Chloe, another treasure hunter who has found the other cross. But she doesn't want to work with Sully, who she thinks is a liar and a backstabber. After she leaves, Nate finds out she took their cross with her and chases her through the streets of Barcelona. Chloe is faster, though, and she makes it to her car and is ready to run away. Nate and Sully don't give up, and they convince her to stay by saying that she may have the crosses, but they have the journal, so they are the only ones who know what to do next. Now that they are all working together, Nate takes them to the place where the clue pointed. It's not a real tree. It's a reference to a church with pine in its name and a tree as its logo. Meanwhile, Santiago goes up to his dad. Armando has been on the news saying that he will give away his fortune, and he says that the reason for this is that their money is covered in blood. Not being able to change his mind, Santiago leaves and goes to see Joe to tell her to keep an eye on Sully because he's been seen around town. Back to the team, they are taking a break before starting the next part of the plan. While Nate is in the kitchen, Chloe tells Sully that she thinks Nate is Sam's brother. She demands that Sully tell her the truth about what happened, but Sully just says he'll do it when the time is right. The next day, Santiago tries again to change his father's mind about giving away the fortune. Because Armando refuses, Santiago follows him to his car and tells Joe to kill him. When night comes, the team goes into the church pretending to be tourists, and Nate is shocked to see that one of Sam's postcards is for sale there. Following the symbols and words carved into the floor and walls, the three people find a secret button that Nate presses to reveal a painting hidden behind a statue of Mary. When Nate turns it over and sees a picture of hell, the keyholes for the crosses are revealed by the altar. Nate and Chloe use the keys and turn it clockwise first. This lets out a bunch of darts that almost kills them. They get out of the way just in time and then try going clockwise, which gives them access to a secret tunnel. The journal says that one must stay in heaven and the other must stay in hell, so Nate and Chloe go into the tunnel with one of the crosses while Sully stays outside with the other. Nate puts a tracker on Sully's phone so he can see where he needs to go next. Sully can now follow them, but he doesn't know that Joe is also following him. Nate and Chloe follow a mysterious tunnel that leads them to a nightclub where they find Jossman. The two people cross the room and get to the bar by pretending to be a dancing couple. At the bar, Nate tries to start a fire with Sam's lighter. It fails again, so Chloe starts it for him. Now that they have a distraction, they can work on the puzzle carved into the wall behind the bar. Joe's men find them anyway, causing Nate to fight with them until Chloe finds another keyhole that she opens with the cross. A new secret tunnel opens up in front of them, and the two of them are able to escape right before it closes again, leaving Joss' men behind. Following this tunnel leads the two to a secret door under a fountain. When they use the key on it, the room starts to fill with water. Sully needs to use the cross on the hole above the ground to save them, but the keyhole is behind a thick piece of glass. While he is working on breaking the glass, Joe shows up to steal the cross, and a fight starts. At first, it looks like Joe has the upper hand, but with one quick move, Sully turns the tables and throws Joe against the glass, which finally breaks. Then, Sully puts the cross over the keyhole and opens the secret door so that the two can escape, but only Nate comes out. When Nate sees that Chloe has passed out underwater, he goes back for her. Once they are both out of the water, Chloe is surprised to see that she was helped instead of backstabbed. This door leads to a Roman foyer, where Chloe lights a torch when Nate's lighter fails again. This chamber is also underground, and Sully can see them through a drain on the street. He also finds a symbol carved into a rock that says both keys are needed to open the next door. So, Sully throws the key he has through the grill so it can reach the two. Nate puts the crosses together and opens another mysterious door, which leads them to a Roman storehouse. There are 3 huge urns in it. For a moment, the team thinks they've found the gold, but the urns are full of salt. As they look at them, the urns suddenly break, allowing them to find a map in the salt. Nate takes note of a route that goes from Spain to the East Indies, but before he can discuss the possibilities, Chloe takes out her gun and demands that he hands the map to her. Nate tries to make a deal with her, but Chloe just tells him he doesn't know the full story of what happened to Sam before knocking him out and running away with the map. Moments later, Sully wakes Nate up, and Nate demands to know the truth. Sully explains Sam didn't ghost him, he's just gone. They had reached the captain's tomb together and found the journal, but on their way out, they were attacked by Joe and her men, and Sam got shot. Nate realizes Sully got away and left Sam there to die, and the only reason why he recruited Nate is that Sam could have told him some of the missing clues he was missing to reach the gold. After calling Sully greedy and selfish, Nate breaks their partnership and leaves. Later, Sully finds Nate to try to get him to come back. Nate agrees, but only because he's been looking at the postcards and decided he wants to finish what his brother started. Meanwhile, Joe goes to tell Santiago what happened, only to find out that Chloe is also working for him. Since she's been more successful, she'll now be in charge of the operation, which makes Joe pretty angry. Santiago and his team get things ready at his private airport, including his favorite red car, which Nate and Sully used to sneak into the airport by hiding in the trunk. After looking at the map and figuring out where they should go, Santiago gives a speech about how his family was betrayed and how he will restore their honor. Joe stops him by killing him. Chloe gets scared and tries to run away. While Joe and her men go after her, Nate and Sully sneak around and find the map. The plan is also to steal parachutes and jump out of the plane, but when they get to the cargo hold, Nate can't help but confront Joe and ask her if she really killed Sam. Sully jumps away with the parachute as Nate gets into a fight with the other men and the cargo is pushed off the plane, which takes us back to the beginning of the story. Joe's men find Chloe and start shooting at her, which would make it hard for her to escape by parachute as well. Instead, she gets in the car and drives it off the plane, so when Nate climbs back in, it's Chloe who pushes him out again. She is also the one who grabs his hand and leads him to one of the falling cargo boxes. She then jumps on top of it and opens its parachute, which lets them safely land in the middle of the sea. The two drift around for a while until the waves carry them to the Philippines, where they check into a hotel using Sully's credit card. Chloe prints a map with the same dimensions as the real one. Using Sam's postcards, Nate figures out that the map doesn't show the exact place to find the treasure. Sully was right, Sam did try to leave Nate the last clue, so Nate and Chloe spend the night trying to figure out what he was saying. Chloe gets tired after a while and goes to bed, but Nate doesn't give up. This works out well for him because he realizes he hasn't tried the oldest trick in Sam's book. Since the lighter still won't work, Nate uses a candle to read a message on a postcard that tells him to use the crosses as a compass. Nate does just that and finally figures out where the gold is. He writes the coordinates down on a piece of paper before going to bed. The next morning, Joe and her men get to the area while Chloe wakes up first and finds the paper with the coordinates. She decides to take the note with her and leave Nate behind. When Nate wakes up alone, he isn't worried because she left the wrong coordinates on purpose. He already knew Chloe would betray him. Nate takes a motorboat to the cave shown by the coordinates. He doesn't know that Joe sees him from a distance while she's looking in the wrong place. Inside this cave, Nate swims through an underwater tunnel to get to another cave where both of Magellan's ships have been hidden all these years. As Nate finds the gold inside, Sully shows up in the cave too, thanks to the tracker he still has in his phone. He tells Nate that Sam would be proud of him, but before they can talk more, Joe and her men show up, so the two hide inside a secret compartment. With the help of two helicopters, Joe's crew lifts all the ships through a hole on top of the cave. Nate and Sully come out of hiding with a dagger and a sword to protect themselves and get as much gold as they can. Then, they go upstairs to fight the crew until they throw every man off the ship. Now, Sully can climb up the chains holding the ship and get to the helicopter, where he pushes off the men he finds and takes the controls to fly away from Joe, who is on the other ship. Joe tells her pilot to follow Sully, which causes her ship to hit the other. Her men jump on Nate's ship and start fighting, so Nate beats them up and takes some guns from them. He also finds some gunpowder lying around. Sully guides the helicopter through an narrow passage between two cliffs to get away from the people chasing him. But Joe is waiting for him at the other end, so he has to do a very risky maneuver to avoid crashing into them. But this is only a short-term solution. Joe and her ship are still coming after them, which made Nate decide to take extreme measures. Using the gunpowder he found, Nate puts a ball in the ship's cannon. After a few failed attempts, he manages to make Sam's work easier and fires the cannon at the other helicopter. Joe jumps off the ship before it crashes into a hill with the helicopter on fire. Nate and Sully think they've won, but Joe has jumped on their ship and is now letting go of the anchor to keep them from getting away. It's clear that the ship won't last long, so Joe and Nate fight for a while before Nate starts climbing the chains to get to the helicopter. When Sully sees that Joe is coming after Nate, he decides to finally change his ways. He throws his bag of gold at Joe, causing her to fall into the ocean. Then, Sully helps Nate get into the helicopter just before the chains finally break and the ship falls on Joe, killing her. The ship floats for a few seconds before it starts to sink. Nate thinks they can dive for treasure later, but this won't be possible because Philippine naval units are coming, so the treasure will end up in the hands of their government. As the two fly away, Sully laughs when he sees Chloe trying to follow them on a motorboat, but he also laments that there is no treasure. But Nate surprises him by showing him the gold he's managed to hide in his pants. Sam, who is in prison in the middle of nowhere, writes Nate another postcard telling him to watch his back. A few months later, Nate meets an agent who works for a man named Roman. Roman is interested in Nate's ring and wants to trade it for a Nazi map. The agent tries to betray Nate by taking both the ring and the map, but Sully shows up and makes a distraction so Nate can get both things back. As the two leave together, they are caught by someone who can't be seen. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more and hit the like button to help me out, and also leave a comment if you want me to explain your favorite film. Until next time, take care.